This is John Lauder, host of The Cheap Seats. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy and you probably are too. This is Emily and I'm here today with just Elizabeth, but we're here to talk nerdy to you about Elder Scrolls. We're going back into the world again, talking about some of the lore, which we have done a little bit in the past. We talked about the races and things, but we're specifically going to be talking about the events around the game Oblivion today. We've both been playing the game a little bit recently, and we thought it would be fun to bring back this semi-recurring series and discuss the importance of all the events that take place in the game, and what's important about them. Obviously, that means if you haven't played the game, there's going to be some spoilers to the main quest line. So if you have not played Oblivion yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and play it. It's actually really, really fun and officially backwards compatible on Xbox One. That's how I'm playing it, and I believe that's also how Elizabeth's playing it as well.
Yes.
So go play it. It's fun. This episode is brought to you by Squadcast. As podcasters who all live in different states and time zones, one of the most important things when we record, which we always do remotely, is the quality of our audio together. Current solutions like Skype, which we have used, and Zoom are dependent on the internet quality. Squadcast is a simple browser-based tool that requires no additional software to install. The audio is recorded locally as high-quality WAV files and then magically uploaded to the guest's computer. We've been using them for a few weeks now and love the experience. To get started, go to squadcast.fm for your 14-day free trial.
All the information, I just want to put out there that all the information in this podcast I personally culled somewhat from the unofficial Elder Scrolls page, also known as UESP, as well as in-game books you can actually pick up and read in the game. If you have any questions about the Elder Scrolls, about the games or the lore, I highly recommend checking out UESP. It's fan-run and it is fantastic. If you want anything more in-depth or detailed, I also recommend the subreddit TES lore, but that you can end up going down a really dark rabbit hole with that one. So if you want something just a little bit more succinct and to the point, UESP is definitely the way to go. Now, if you listen to our previous Elder Scrolls episode in which we briefly went over the events of each of the games, you'll know that Oblivion takes place in the province of Cyrodiil. Now, we're about to really dive into the details, but before we get into the main questline of Oblivion, I think we have to start with the source of the Oblivion crisis, and that is with the Daedric Prince.
Yeah, so this is where I come in, and I'm the Elder Scrolls noob here. I have to ask you, what is a Daedric Prince?
Well, the Daedric Princes are the most powerful of the Daedra, who, according to the UESP, are divine beings that did not take part in the creation of the world, unlike the Aedra, and thus retain the full breadth of their power. The princes are commonly worshipped as gods, and each has a particular sphere of influence that they govern, and they are referred to as princes regardless of the gender of the form they tend to assume. So you might see a statue of one of them, and it appears to be a woman, but they're still considered a Daedric prince. There are actually 17 princes in all. There's Azura, Boethia, Clavicus Vile, Hermaeus Mora, Hircine, Jigalag, Malakath, Mayrins Dagon, Nethala, Meridia, Molag Bal, Namira, Nocturnal, Periite, Sanguine, Sheogorath, and Vermina. Of all the princes, however, Mayrins Dagon is the one who is the source of the Oblivion crisis.
All right. So besides all of the names sounding like gibberish, that does make sense then. Okay. So then the one that's important, Mehrunes Dagon, why is he so important?
Well, he is the source of the Oblivion Crisis. According to the UESP, Dagon is the Daedric Prince of Destruction, Change, Revolution, Energy, and Ambition. He is associated with natural dangers like fire, earthquakes, and floods. Dagon is an especially important deity in Morrowind, where the Dunmer live, where he represents its near inhospitable terrain as one of the four corners of the House of Troubles. In most cultures, though, Dagon is merely a god of bloodshed and betrayal.
Okay, and then what's the Oblivion Crisis?
Well, the Oblivion Crisis was caused by Dagon opening Oblivion gates and trying to invade Nirn in an attempt to take it over, which, if you listen to our previous podcast, you'll know that Nirn is the world that Elder Scrolls takes place in. No one knows his motivation, but I mean, he is the Daedric Prince of Revolution and Ambition as well as Destruction, so I mean, I would say that his motivation was probably just in his nature.
Okay, well then how come something like this didn't happen already? It's because it seems like nobody knows how to take care of this issue. Like, they're like, oh no, the Oblivion happening! Ah!
Well, previous to the crisis, there were actually two things that would prevent things like the Oblivion Crisis in place. And one of them was a pact between the Aedra and the Daedra that no Daedric prince could directly and fully interfere with Nirn because, they obviously didn't take place, didn't help create the world, which Mehrunes Dagon ended up breaking toward the end of the main quest line and drew the wrath of Akatosh, one of the Aedra, which I will touch on briefly later on. The second and the most significant was actually the Covenant of Akatosh, described in the in-game book Trials of Saint Alessia, which says, Akatosh drew from his breast a burning handful of his heart's blood, and he gave it into Alessia's hand, saying, This shall also be a token to you of our joined blood and pledged faith. So long as you and your descendants shall wear the amulet of kings, then shall this dragon fire burn, an eternal flame, as a sign to all men and gods of our faithfulness. So long as the dragon fires shall burn, to you and to all generations, I swear that my heart's blood shall hold fast the gates of oblivion. So this covenant had to be broken in order for the Oblivion Crisis to proceed, because otherwise it was impossible, because there was literally a divine holding the gates closed. So to accomplish this, Mehrunes Dagon worked through the cult of the Mythic Dawn.
Okay. Well, now the Amulet of Kings is something I've heard of from playing the game. And I think we'll probably talk about that in more detail later on. But the Mythic Dawn cult, what is that then?
Well, the Mythic Dawn was a cult that worshipped Mehrunes Dagon, and they followed a man called Mankar Cameron, who they believed was a prophet of the end times. Cameron read this document called the Mysterium Xarxes, which was a tome written by Mehrunes Dagon himself, and he wrote 4 books on it called Commentaries on the Mysterium Xarxes. He also used the power of the Xarxes to create a place called Gaiart Alata, or Paradise, which was an alternate realm where souls of the Mythic Dawn cultists went in death.
Okay. Well, that's all right. So how did they break the covenant then? The Mythic Dawn were the ones that broke the covenant. So how did they do that?
Well, now we finally get to the actual beginning of the game Oblivion. I know there's a lot going on before we actually talk about the game, but I mean, setup is important. You don't want to throw new stuff at people, who don't know as much about this. So I wanted to make sure to set it up. But when the game starts, the player finds themselves a prisoner, because this is how every Elder Scrolls game starts. You're a prisoner. After some dialogue triggers, the Emperor Uriel Septim himself, along with a group of his personal guard called the Blades, will enter your cell in order to use a secret door to try to escape the city. You see, Uriel's sons have just been assassinated by the Mythic Dawn, and the assassins are hot on Uriel's trail. So Uriel, sensing that you will become important, has you follow them. And while you travel through the sewers, you're ambushed by the Mythic Dawn, and Uriel is assassinated, leaving no emperor and no heirs to wear the Amulet of Kings, thus breaking the covenant. Okay.
All right. Well, I have played through at least this much. I have not gotten anywhere close to finishing the game yet, but I have at least gotten through that part.
Well, right before his assassination, though, Uriel Septim will take you aside and explains that he is not the last Septim. He'll tell you that he has an illegitimate son that can take the throne. He entrusts you with the Amulet of Kings and tells you to deliver it to Joffrey, who is a former Blades member, who will know where his last remaining heir is located. Once you actually deliver the Amulet of Kings to Joffrey, he'll tell you the identity of the Emperor's last son, Martin, and he'll tell you that he's a priest in the city of Kvatch. However, by the time the player character arrives at Kvatch, an Oblivion Gate has already been opened, and most of the city has been destroyed by Daedra. Martin, however, is safe in the chapel, though he refuses to leave with civilians still in danger. So, of course, that means that the player character has to close the Oblivion Gate in order to progress the main quest line.
All right, so they can be closed, though, once they've been opened.
Yes. Obviously, Mehrunes Dagon can close them at will. And he actually does close the gates he opens in Blackmarsh because the Argonians, who has been prepared for years based on the foreknowledge of the Hist, they actually charge into the gates once they open, and they start taking over parts of Dagon's realm in Oblivion. So he has
What?
Yeah, so he has to close them because the Hist had this foreknowledge, so they basically fed this special sap to all the hatchlings to more or less make them super soldiers, more than capable of taking on the Daedra. So, yeah, Dagon has to close the gates in Black Marsh because it's just too much.
That's kind of awesome.
It is. It's really cool. In-game, however, obviously, it's a little bit more difficult for a mortal to do it. You'll need to go through the Oblivion Gate and enter Dagon's realm. You'll have to find the correct tower, which with some gates it can be kind of difficult to ascertain which one it is, as there can be several different towers available for you to go in. You'll have to climb to the highest part of said tower and then remove the sigil stone, which will cause the gate to close and the player character will automatically be transported back to Nirn. Oh, and you'll also have to fight off whatever Daedra you encounter while in Oblivion, so yeah, fun times!
Awesome!
Yeah. Now, once you close the Oblivion Gate at Kvatch, then the player character will be known as the Hero of Kvatch, and they'll carry that title with them throughout the game. At that point, you can talk to Martin, you'll explain his heritage, and you can escort him back to Joffrey. Now, I know you're probably rolling your eyes at an escort mission, but don't worry. In this case, not only can you fast travel, but Martin is marked as essential, so he can't die. So this is at least an easier escort mission than most. However, once you do get back to the chapel that Joffrey is at, it's already under attack by the Mythic Dawn. And while you are able to fight them off, you find out that they have stolen the Amulet of Kings, so there's no way to reestablish the Dragonfires with Martin.
Oh,
yeah. So to protect Martin, you're asked to escort him to Cloud Ruler Temple, which is a blade stronghold in the northern part of Cyrodiil near the town of Bruma. Now, once you escort him there, you'll also get a chance to join the blades themselves, which I recommend, especially if you're wearing heavy armor, because you can get a really nice set of them for free. It's not necessary to join them to advance the main quest line, and you will be able to join later if you wish, as long as Joffrey is still alive. Whether you join or not, however, Joffrey will give you the next quest, which is to reunite with one of the members of the Blades you met earlier who was guarding Uriel's septum, and work with him to ascertain the location of the Amulet of Kings.
All right.
Have you gotten to this part yet in the game?
No, I haven't, actually. I, so far, have only made it out of the first dungeon. I'm slow going when it comes to games, but it's still fun.
Well, I'm the kind of person, I always delay the main quest line for a while anyway, so I totally understand.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, in order to get the location of the Amulet of Kings, you will have to infiltrate the cult of the Mythic Dawn. The first step is obtaining the first 3 copies of the commentaries that Mankar Cameron wrote. To obtain the final volume, you'll have to actually meet with Mythic Dawn agents who, of course, will see through you and try to kill you. Once you obtain the final book, however, you can take them to a mage at the Arcane University who will help you puzzle out where to find information on where the cult is located. Once you know where they're located, you can infiltrate their headquarters. And there's obviously several different ways you can do this. You can go stealth. You can go in there swords blazing. However you do that, it doesn't really change what will happen. Mankar Cameron will be there, and so will the Amulet of Kings. But he will, no matter what happens, he will disappear into his created realm of paradise via a portal with the Amulet of Kings. And your only choice at this point is to grab the Mysterium Xarxes and take it to the Cloud Ruler Temple to see if Martin can find out how to enter Cameron's paradise.
All right. Well, okay. So it doesn't matter how you get there. You just have to get there.
I always go in there. I never try to just straight up infiltrate. I always just go in there and just start killing people. It's just, it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
Now, After the player character takes care of some Mythic Dawn spies that have been lurking around Bruma, you can talk to Martin to see what he has learned from the Mysterium Xerxes, which is, at this point, he knows that they'll need 4 items to open the portal to Cameron's Paradise, and one of them is a Daedric artifact. There are 15 artifacts available in the game, and any of them will do for the quest. They are Azura's Star, the Ebony Blade, Goldbrand, the Mace of Molag Bal, the Mask of Clavicus Vile, the Agma Infinium, the Ring of Khajiit, the Ring of Namira, the Sanguine Rose, the Savior's Hide, the Skeleton Key, the Skull of Corruption, Spellbreaker, Bolindrung, and Wabajak.
I like that last one.
that is Sheogorath, so the Daedric Prince of Madness. So in order to obtain an artifact, you will have to find the shrine to whichever prince whose artifact you want, and you'll have to complete a quest for them. Their quests are leveled, which means a certain level will be required to be reached before they will give you the quest. The lowest level requirement out of all of them are for Azura's Star and Wabajak, which is for the princes Azura and Sheogorath, respectively. And they only require the player to be at level 2. Keep in mind, though, that by surrendering an artifact, it will be destroyed. So choose carefully and don't hand over an artifact that you want to keep or that is helpful unless there is a duplication glitch you can do on certain artifacts. So if you want to do that, that will work. Otherwise, just consider just giving one up completely, and it's forever lost.
Good to know.
Yeah. Once the artifact is handed over, the player character will learn that an Oblivion gate has opened just outside the nearby town of Bruma, and they'll want you to assist in closing it, of course, because you have obviously closed an Oblivion gate before, so you are obviously the expert.
And the hero of the story,
yes.
anyway.
And by the time you close it, Martin will have figured out the next ingredient needed to open the portal, which is the blood of a divine. Now, in order to obtain this, you'll have to travel to Sancrator and retrieve it off of the armor of Tiber Septim, who became Talos, the 9th divine. Of course, there will be ghosts and wraiths infesting the place that you'll have to fight through. Just beware that ethereal undead, like a ghost, can only be harmed by spells or by special weapons, specifically silver, daedric, or enchanted. So if you don't have any of those, you might want to, look around and try to buy one, or, go through a couple of dungeons to try to find some, because otherwise your weapons aren't going to be effective.
That's smart. I'm the person when I play games, I never actually want to buy stuff. I'm like, oh, but I have my money. I don't want to spend it. What if I don't get more?
Me too. Me too. And even when I have like tens of thousands of dollars, I'm like, nope, I'm just going to go through a couple of dungeons and see if I can find it. Because, and then I'm the kind where once I find like a silver weapon, I like always keep it on me. Just in case. Because you never know when you might encounter a ghost or a wraith. Now, after you deliver that to Martin, he'll let you know the next thing he needs, which is a Great Welkin Stone, which is, you can find regular Welkin Stones in Aelid ruins. But the Great Welkin Stone is a rare Aelid artifact located in the Aelid ruin of Miskarkand. Of course, like every other location, it's infested with enemies, which is goblins in this case, and you'll have to fight with them in order to get to your target. However, the real enemy is, once you take the stone, the king of Miskargand, who is a powerful like, will rise, along with 2 zombie guardians. And you will have to deal with them unless you want to deal with some bugs later on in the game. So it's best to just take care of them. You can't technically run away, but it does cause a glitch where Martin isn't wearing his armor. And at that time, he will not be essential. So it's really best to have him wear his armor. Yeah. Yes. So back at Cloud Ruler Temple, you will find Martin wearing armor if you have taken care of that King of Miskarkan, and he'll be debating with Joffrey. Martin will clue you in that the last needed ingredient is a great sigil stone, and the only way to obtain that is to allow a great Oblivion gate to open outside of Bruma. Before the Great Gate opens, you will get a chance to go around to the other cities in Cyrodiil and recruit allies from the different rulers of those cities, but that's not required. Now, to open a Great Gate, you have some smaller gates will have to open first, and there will be Daedra coming out of them. And at this point, like I said, Martin is not essential, so you will have to work to keep him alive until the Great Gate itself opens, and then you can run in, and you'll be fine after that.
Okay.
Yeah. This time, you will have a time limit to close the gate. Because there is a Daedric siege engine that is going to invade Tamriel. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to just grab that Great Sigil Stone. So I always just make a beeline right for it because I don't have any time to waste. Now, with the Great Sigil Stone, Martin will be able to complete the spell so that you can enter Cameron's paradise, and he'll do so upon return to Cloud Ruler Temple. You'll be the only one entering, and once there, you'll have to find and kill Cameron and take back the Amulet of Kings. Once Cameron dies, Paradise will dissolve, and the player character is automatically transported back to Cloud Ruler Temple, so you don't have to worry about some complicated process of getting back.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. I was actually slightly worried about that when I did that the first time, but I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to do anything but stand here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once you get back to Cloud Ruler Temple, you'll hand over the Amulet of Kings to Martin. And now the goal will be to go to the Imperial City and relight the dragon fires in the Temple of the One. Now, Martin will prefer to hold to tradition, and he wants to present himself to the Elder Council, who has been ruling in the absence of an emperor, and he'll want to present himself as heir and accept their blessing before he relights the dragon fires, even though technically he could relight the dragon fires and be fine because, he's a septum. Right when the High Chancellor Okado is about to give him that blessing, however, a messenger will rush in and announce that an Oblivion Gate has opened inside the Imperial City and Mehrunes Dagon himself has arrived.
Oh boy.
Unfortunately, that means that the barriers between Tamriel and Oblivion have been dissolved, and relighting the dragon fires will do nothing. However, Martin will have a backup plan. The player character will need to escort Martin to the Temple of the One, and again, he will not be essential, so you will have to fight off a whole horde of Daedra all along the way. And you'll also have to avoid the large figure of Mehrunes Dagon, who is blocking the entrance. I highly recommend to just try to run around him because that's really about the best thing you can hope for in that situation.
Yeah.
Now, once inside the temple, Martin will thank you for helping him, and the final cutscene will start, during which you can't do anything but just watch. Now, remember when I said earlier about the pact between the Aedra and the Daedra and how Dagon broke it by entering Tamriel and incurred the wrath of Akatosh?
Yeah.
Well, this is where that whole consequence sequence plays out. Martin and Dagon will face each other down before Martin smashes the Amulet of Kings, and he's transformed into the avatar of Akatosh, which is a giant flaming dragon. The player character can only watch, you can't really assist in any way, but you can only watch as Dagon and Martin as the avatar fight it out until the great dragon buries its jaws in Dagon's neck and then blasts him with holy fire, which banishes him permanently to his realm of oblivion and closes all the Oblivion gates for good. After the fight, the avatar of Akatosh lands and is turned into a giant stone statue, which is a permanent tribute to Martin and his sacrifice, since he's widely assumed to be dead at this point.
Ooh. But is he actually dead, though?
Well, all in-game sources point to him being dead, as NPCs or non-playable characters will all remark on his death. However, there is some speculation online. I'm sure you can find this in the TES lore subreddit because they always go deep into these things. There is speculation that instead of Martin himself being transformed into the avatar of Akatosh, the avatar and Martin simply switched places in their respective planes. And so Martin was transported elsewhere while the avatar fought with Mehrunes Dagon. And then once the avatar turned into stone, Martin was trapped in whatever plane he'd been transported to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. There's no real exact proof either way, so it's kind of you kind of make your own headcanon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Either way, at this point, the main questline of Oblivion is over, and after the fight, that High Chancellor Okado will rush in to see what happened to the temple, and the player character is then pronounced the champion of Cyrodiil, and they will be gifted the Imperial Dragon armor, which is normally only what an emperor wears. And picking up that suit of armor from the armory will officially complete the main questline of Oblivion.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty fancy. So does that mean that the player becomes the emperor because they have the emperor's armor, or is that just a high gift?
No, it's just kind of it's kind of, oh, well, you're champion of Cyrodiil, and thank you so much. And there's not really an emperor right now, but here's some really special armor. So, thank you.
So what are the after effects of the Oblivion crisis in those issues? Like without the Amulet of Kings, is there still going to be a Aedra Daedra pact, or is that how does that all work out?
Well, this is actually answered by the in-game book, The Oblivion Crisis, which you can actually find and read in the game Skyrim. In the last paragraph of the book, it states, "With the amulet gone, the dragon fires quenched, and the last dragon blood emperor dead, the barrier to oblivion is sealed forever." So basically, by Martin's sacrifice, no one in Tamriel has to worry about an invasion from Oblivion ever again, which also means any future games put out by Bethesda will have to be careful in how they navigate around the Daedric princes because of their now severely limited roles in the happenings of Nirn. That is, of course, if they don't break their own lore, which can also happen.
Well, that's interesting, though. It's cool that there's a book about Oblivion in Skyrim. I just really like that continuity.
Oh, yeah.
And so then what about, like, as far as the Emperor and the Empire in Tamriel, how, as far as that goes, Martin's gone, so the last heir to the Empire is gone. So...
well, obviously, with Martin dead, there's no heir to the throne at all. And the rule of the Empire will fall back to High Chancellor Okado, who was the one ruling after Uriel Septim's death. However, Okado is assassinated, some say by the growing movement of the Thalmor, though there is no proof of this. Eventually, the Cyrodiilic warlord Titus Mede will seize the throne and establish the Mede dynasty, which is actually still in power by the time the events of Skyrim unfold 200 years later. Unfortunately, by the time Titus Mede seizes the throne, the provinces of Black Marsh and Elsewhere, which is home of the Argonians and Khajiit respectively, have already seceded from the Empire, with Elsewhere joining the Aldmeri Dominion and Black Marsh just kind of keeping to itself.
Okay. So what's this Aldmeri Dominion?
Well, as I kind of mentioned before, Cyrodiil is not the only province that Dagon opens his gates in. And in the Somerset Isles, which is the home of the Altmer, or the High Elves, the population is devastated. Once the gates seemingly just mysteriously close, obviously because of Martin and the champion of Cyrodiil, a faction called the Thalmor take responsibility for closing the gates, and they jump at the opportunity to seize power, and they create the Aldmeri Dominion, which goes to war with the Empire, which leads to an impasse, during which the White Gold Concordat is signed. This actually leads into events in the game Skyrim, with Ulfric Stormcloak rejecting the Concordat, killing the High King of Skyrim, and going to war with the Empire to oust them and to create an independent state for Skyrim. Of course, in the game Skyrim, there is an optional quest line to join either the Empire or the Stormcloaks and bring an end to the Civil War, but it's believed that no matter what the outcome of the Civil War, the Dominion will likely try to take advantage once more and attack, which kind of brings speculation as to the events of the 6th Elder Scrolls game.
I could definitely see that being taking or playing into what the plotline might be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we don't know exactly what will happen in Elder Scrolls 6 yet, but do you think some of the consequences of Oblivion could kind of play out in that one?
Definitely. I think that is definitely possible. I know a lot of fans are really interested to see how long the 6th game takes place after Skyrim, because obviously there are 200 years between Oblivion and Skyrim, so we're kind of curious as to, how long it will be between Skyrim and the 6th Elder Scrolls game. Because normally there hasn't been that far of a jump in the timeline. The time between, I think, either Oblivion or Morrowind, it was only 34 years since the in-game time from the very first game, which was Arena. So,
wow.
Yeah, so between Oblivion and Skyrim, it's the biggest jump. And so I'm kind of curious if it doesn't take place that long after Skyrim, if the Thalmor and the Aldmeri Dominion will still be present and how they'll possibly be dealt with either before or during the game. I would love to go to war against them, but, obviously a release date and a title hasn't even been announced for the 6th installment yet, so any information isn't really going to be coming out anytime soon.
There's a bunch of trolls.
Yeah.
No, I just remember around E3 and Bethesda was just
being
they left about it.
Very last, literally the very last.
Yeah, like come on, people are waiting for it. All right, well, now that we've covered all of this lore and everything surrounding Oblivion, it's time for our nerd news segment. It has kind of been a while, and so we want to get you caught up on some of the nerdy news that has come up since our last one. And what better way to lead off the segment than by the announcement made by the voice actor of Uriel Septim himself Sir Patrick Stewart. In an Instagram post, he confirmed that he will be returning to the role of Jean-Luc Picard in a new Star Trek venture with CBS. From the looks of it, it seems he'll be coming back as Picard in the new Star Trek Discovery series that came out last year. So I am super excited about this. First of all, I'm interested to see how they put Picard into Discovery, because Discovery is supposed to be set in a time period before the original series of Star Trek even started. So I'm wondering how they're going to put Picard in there, because he's after the original series. So that will be interesting. I'm expecting time travel and wormholes and all that sort of thing, but I mean, it has happened in Discovery as well. They accidentally transported to an alternate dimension. So or an alternate reality. So weird things have happened with Discovery already. So I wouldn't be surprised that time travel happened, but I'm just curious to see how they weave it into the storyline that's already there. So also the San Diego Comic-Con happened last month, which is super exciting. I was noticing a bunch of some of my favorite actors on Instagram going live, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like they're talking right to me. But there were like a billion other people on, like, chatting and stuff like that too. So like, I know it wasn't just me. But some things that got announced. The writing team behind Avatar: The Last Airbender, which we just covered back in June, is creating a new show on Netflix called The Dragon Prince. This has nothing to do with Avatar: The Last Airbender, but if that writing team is going to start a whole new world, we are super excited, and we have no doubt that it's going to be excellent. Also, the official trailer for DC's Shazam has come out. Super excited about that. The quirky hero is portrayed in part by Zachary Levi, and in other part by another actor. If you don't know anything about Shazam, you should definitely watch the trailer, because that actually clarifies things. And it will be definitely a big contrast to DC's typical dark and broody stuff, like even like the visually dark. I know there's a bunch of memes about like, I've always noticed DC movies seem to be pretty dark. Oh yeah, Batman's like really grumpy and blah, blah, blah. No, like I really can't see what's happening. And this one looks like it's actually going to be like really easy to see, and it's not going to be so dark in a mood as well. It seems to be more of an upbeat, light tempoed movie, so I'm super excited. Fans of the cartoon series Star Wars: The Clone Wars, you'll be very excited and happy to see it revived for one more season. And we also got some sneak peeks at Wonder Woman 1984, Aquaman, who's the trailer for that movie came out as well, and the upcoming 13th Doctor. So all of those things, you can search for sneak peeks about those as well. I'm really, really excited about Aquaman too, because I don't know much about the Aquaman storyline either. Same with Shazam, but I'm excited about both of those. And I still have to catch up on Doctor Who so that I can watch the 13th Doctor. So we'll see how things go there. Wonder Woman 1984 will definitely be interesting too. So I'm very excited about all of those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But that's all we've got for nerd news today. So
why don't you talk nerdy to us? Have you guys played the game Oblivion? Did you learn anything about the lore today? Find Beauties and Headcanons on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, and post a fact that you learned, if you learned anything, and also share your nerdy topic suggestions. Subscribe to this podcast and others from Public House Media on iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and wherever good podcasts are found. We also love feedback, so if you like this episode, or even if you didn't, just give us a rating and a review so we can keep making great episodes for you. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Emily, and thanks for getting nerdy with us on Beauties and Headcanons.